Yo, what is good? Today we're here to talk about Minishoot Adventures. Imagine somebody took the exploration, the overworld, the upgrades, the dungeons, just the grand sense of adventure from the Legend of Zelda series, and then they mixed in some heart-racing, action-packed, just absolute chaos from the bullet hell shmup world, and I think that gives you what Minishoot Adventures is about. So the formula of mixing a top-down adventure game with a shmup isn't a new formula. The Guardian Legend on the NES did this almost 30 years ago. We also had Sigma-Star Saga on the Game Boy Advance, probably some 10-15 years ago, that also did this. But where these differ is in the Guardian Legend and in Sigma-Star Saga, you had two distinct parts of the game. You had the overworld adventure where you walked around and you did stuff, and then you had, in the case of the Guardian Legend, just specific shmup parts of a level, and then a boss fight. And then in the case of Sigma-Star Saga, you just had these encounters that were fairly randomized, where you just got a random ship, you flew horizontally across the screen and you defeated enemies, and then the encounter was over. Whereas here in Minishoot Adventure, it just decides, hey, we don't need to separate these two things, we'll just make this the whole game. Minishoot Adventure does not make a distinction between these two aspects of the game, and in fact just marries them. So you fly around the overworld in your ship, participating in shmup-like activities in each room of the overworld, and then you'll go and find dungeons and go into the dungeons and play through them like you would a Zelda game, but with shmup combat. And it's just a really cool mix, and I really like the way that this is done in this game. Minishoot Adventures drops you right into this world that's kind of destroyed. You can tell maybe like some large war happened here, but you come into this world, everything is destroyed. That's really all that you got, and then you just start exploring. So you start exploring, you just start picking branches and paths to start going down. First thing you'll notice is that you just find secret after secret after secret. It kind of reminds you of Hollow Knight. There's really not a lot of hand-holding going on in this game. You're gonna have to explore and find things in order to progress, but the game, I feel like, never leaves you hanging, kind of like Hollow Knight did, in the fact that it won't just let you linger and try to figure out where you need to go. You'll always have hints on where you need to go, or parts of the map will just be closed off, and it's pretty clear that you need to get something in order to be able to come back and go somewhere. So jumping into my review of this game, since I have finished it, starting with the pros. What are some pros of this? First big pro is that there are difficulty levels in this game. So if you are not a shmup fan, especially if you're not into bullet hell games, you can adjust the difficulty to make it less bullet helly. But I will say, if you played on normal, there are sections of this game that are fairly bullet helly, but it's not the whole game. You're gonna experience a game that's fairly, I think, balanced, and then you'll get into like some boss fights or some areas and just kind of spread out throughout the world where it'll be a little bit more challenging, and I think that challenge is a good thing. But again, that difficulty level is there, and you can change the difficulty level at any time, and I think that's another really cool aspect of this game. Another really cool thing about this game is that in addition to being able to just upgrade your ship by finding some of the currency that's spread out throughout the world, you can buy upgrades to your gun, you can buy additional skills, you can buy things that just kind of help you with the gameplay, kind of like badges did in Hollow Knight. But in addition to that, there is experience points that you get by clearing dungeons, defeating enemies, finding just these caches of XP throughout the world, and then you can upgrade individual skills that your ship can then have, like attributes about your ship. And then the very cool thing about this is that in addition to being able to upgrade anytime that you're having experience points or experience levels to be able to meet those thresholds, you can also down level at any point. So you can respec your ship at any time that you want and not pay a penalty for that, which I think is amazing in a game like this. This wouldn't be a Legend of Zelda clone without the normal Legend of Zelda things that you would expect. You can find upgrades to your meter, so this is a thing that's going to affect some of your quote-unquote magical skills and magical abilities. You can extend that bar so that you're able to use more powerful things or use your stuff for longer. You'll also be able to find heart pieces kind of spread throughout the world. And another big pro that I want to point out about this game, because I feel like they really thought about accessibility, and that is the fact that you can remap all of the buttons in this game. So like, if you find that the default format is something that you don't like, you can change it. It's a twin stick shooter, and I do not like having to move around in a shmup, especially a bullet hell, using the analog stick on a controller. So I remapped that onto the D-pad, and then I was able to get that fine, precise movement that I really like to have in a shmup. And it was really cool that that option was there. You weren't locked into some control scheme that you have to get used to. You can warp the whole control scheme around something that helps your brain get into it. So no game is perfect. Even games that we think are perfect have flaws. So there are a couple flaws that I will kind of point to, or just things that kind of bugged me when playing this game. The first big one is that there is an insta-kill bullet type in this game that I think sucks. And it kind of sucks because if you are spending a lot of time upgrading your ship or avoiding being hit or whatever, like you're just playing the game like you normally would, if you just get touched by one of these bullet types, it can potentially just ruin all of your progress, and then you'll have to fight to remember where you were in order to like get back to the point of having to try to avoid the insta-kill bullet yet again. And there was a couple times where I just kept getting hit in the same spot by these insta-kill bullet types, and I was just like, why is this here? At least give me a chance to have some kind of second chance after getting hit by one of these things. And then I'll just throw in one mixed point. This wasn't a pro or a con to me. I could see it being a pro to some people and a con to others, which is why I'm calling it mixed. So map progression in this game is a lot like Hollow Knight, in that you're going to explore areas and it's not going to show anything on the map until you find the thing that helps you represent it on the map. Some people really hated that aspect of Hollow Knight. Again, it was kind of not really a thing that I thought about too much. Sometimes I found it annoying, other times it's just kind of like, all right, that's cool. But I feel like it will bother some people who really didn't like it in Hollow Knight. Just know that it's in this game as well. All right, now let's talk about the audio. So what are some pros about the audio? First and foremost, the boss music is really awesome, and it's what you would basically expect in any kind of game that wants to associate itself with the shmup. Here in the boss music, I think is where you will find the most memorable music, or just kind of like the music that you actually notice and you're just like, oh yeah, there it is. Was I actually hearing any music before this? It will be the music that you probably remember about this game, with an asterisk in that I probably don't think you'll remember that about this game, but you will remember that the boss music is better than the music in basically every other part of this game. The sound effects in this game are also very good. I feel like when you fire your gun, it's a very satisfying sound. When things explode, it's a very satisfying sound. You have the same kind of sound effect cues that you would in like the Legend of Zelda. So when you find something notable, you'll get a sound effect, you'll get an animation, and it's like, yes, I did the thing. And then when you just blow stuff up, it's like, all right, cool, something exploded. Especially if you blow something up off screen or hit something off screen, it really helps to have those sound cues and for them to not be annoying. I remember playing Baldo and the Guardian Owl, or whatever that game was called, and it being such a beautiful game. And then you get to the sound effect. Oh man, we solved... What the hell? What the hell? And it's like, why? Why? Right, and then staying on the same vein of the sound effects, we get to... There is no voice acting in this game. Shocker, I know. But there are things that you will interact with in this game, and kind of much like Hollow Knight, they just kind of make beep boop sounds or just kind of squeeze sounds. But like, they're emotive, they convey emotion, they convey feeling, and I think it works really well in this game, and I love it. All right, now the con about the music, I've already kind of mentioned this. The music outside of the boss fights is just completely forgettable. It's kind of like somewhere between atmospheric and environmental, like it's just sort of there, and every now and then you kind of notice it, but it doesn't stand out. It's not like the overworld theme in the Legend of Zelda games, or just like music you hear in any shmup, just flying through any normal level. It's just very blah. It's the best way to put it. It's just there. It's not bad, it's not great, it's just not memorable. Alright, now let's review the funness. Is this game even fun to play? Are you just gonna hate play through it? Or are you just gonna like try to convince yourself, I spent the money, I should probably play this game? I'll just say, for me, I found myself staying up way too late a lot of nights and having to convince myself to stop playing this game and put it down for the night, come back to it tomorrow, and then we can keep it going. I found this game to be incredibly fun. It mixes, I think, the best parts of The Legend of Zelda, some of the best parts of shmups, and I would say even some of the best parts of Hollow Knight, and puts it into a really good package that feels like something new. And I'll say this, despite wearing all of those priors that I mentioned, like the inspiration that they bring to this on its sleeves, it doesn't feel like it's a cheap knockoff of these games or like a cheap ripoff of something that you've played before. It feels like it's something new, and I've heard the term bullet Helda thrown around, and like I feel like that's pretty apt here. And I hope bullet Helda becomes like a new genre, because my god, I'm in. Alright, but is there anything that takes away from the funness? Yes, there is one kind of major aspect that I think takes away a little bit from the fun, and that is on the overworld. That is to say, any place that you are that is not a dungeon, if you die, you basically get warped back to a single point on the world map, and then you have to try to find your way back to wherever you were. So sometimes it does kind of feel like a Dark Souls style run back to just go and do something that you happened to be doing and died. And I feel like checkpoints kind of spread throughout the overworld would help with that a lot. And when you're in a dungeon, like you'll encounter these little things on the floor that are basically check marks. And so it's like in a Zelda game, if you die in a dungeon, it takes you back to the beginning of the dungeon and you just start from there. And there's a point like that in the overworld. So if you think of the overworld as one big dungeon, then it just takes you to the beginning of the overworld, and you just have to keep starting over from there every time you die. So if you're someone who doesn't, again, like the Hollow Knight style map progression, like if you find yourself in uncharted parts of the map and you don't have that section of the map like actually showing on your map yet, and you die and it takes you back to the beginning of the overworld, you might find it frustrating to have to try to make your way back to where you were. Right, so in conclusion, I think Minishoot Adventures is such a breath of fresh air. I think it's probably my favorite game of this year so far. This is the game that I probably was just like the most hyped for when I started playing it. Like after I got into it and like actually understood what it was the game that I wanted to just keep coming back to and coming back to. I in fact stopped playing Final Fantasy VII to play this game. And there's a couple other games that I've played since then, and I've been trying to do some trophy cleanup. I think that this is a game that if you give it a chance and you're a fan of shmups, The Legend of Zelda, Hollow Knight, it's gonna probably draw you in pretty quick. And if you've never played any of those other games and you want kind of like a biter-sized game, like it's still a meaty game. You're gonna spend some time trying to beat this game, but it's nowhere near as long as those other games. In short, I think Minishoot Adventures is an amazing game. If you're a fan of The Legend of Zelda, if you're a fan of shmups, you're probably gonna be a fan of this game. I hope Bullet Helda becomes an actual thing. I want more games in this style, and yeah. I think in the future, I'm going to try to do some more game reviews. There's been a few smaller indie games that I've played recently that I've really enjoyed, and I just kind of want to give a spotlight to some of these developers and some of these games. And so look forward to those. But thanks for checking out this video if you made it to the end. And until the next time, deuces.